So the new giant Draenei capital was already confirmed by Blizzard in Dragonflight, and we know they're building it, but since then, nothing has been going on and there hasn't been a follow-up. Based on the roadmap, Midnight is getting announced this summer, and player housing is also on the roadmap, set to be in the game by the end of the year, possibly even before Midnight in the pre-patch. Blizzard has been on a massive effort to update all the playable race capitals for years now, even with Undermine that has been only a speculation until 11.1. After Midnight, 11.2.5 and 11.2.7 are happening as a setup for player housing, and it is likely we could be seeing this new Draenei capital then. But the real question is where? Are they really going to settle the Azure Mist Isles, the place they just randomly crashed in? Could they build it where Dalaran once was in the Eastern Kingdom, where Midnight will be happening? Or is the new Draenei city going to be a floating one, a Draenei version of Dalaran? What is everything we currently know? Playing WoW on your phone is actually possible with Awesome, this video's sponsor. You can check in on your characters, do the simple tasks that you just don't want to sit at a computer for, and it allows you to control your phone completely free. Awesome is incredibly easy to use. Check out my link in the description, download the PC app and the phone app, and just connect them. The free version itself is amazing, you can control your desktop, transfer files, but the real deal is the game version. It has custom keyboards for various games other than just WoW, and you can enjoy AFK gaming at any time, anywhere with game sound. Make sure to use my code DORON to get 7 days completely free, only for the first 200 people. Start Remote Gaming as they got hot sales with up to 40% off on Pro and Game versions. Check out Awesome. So I've been talking about this for a few years now, as Blizzard has literally been on a pretty big behind-the-scenes effort to fix the loose ends and introduce new and updated capitals for all the currently playable races. Through this, I've been talking about how player housing is coming for the last 2 years because there have actually been big hints. However, now it has been confirmed and it will be one of the biggest and most anticipated features of World of Warcraft. Now, we still can't figure out how exactly it is going to work out, but what we know for certain is that it won't be garrisons. By this, I'm almost certain they mean there won't be an illusion of choice that we've had with them. Like back in WoD, you had the garrisons, and I feel like an old man ranting about the Worlds of Dread or garrisons, as it's literally been over a decade since we've been doing the garrison stuff. However, the garrisons essentially had 2 spots, one for the Horde, one for the Alliance on the map, and then you could place the building on plot 1 or the other building on plot 2 or 3. Literally everyone's garrisons was nearly identical. Because of this, I think they're actually going to do it race specific. I mean, they wouldn't make it this big of an announcement, and despite the fact that it is coming in Midnight, I don't think we're all going to settle in Quel'Thalas in one place, because as I said, they have been wrapping things up for a few years now for every playable race. We've now got the Goblin capital we've been talking about for over 2 decades, Gilneas was just retaken, Undercity, and now the Draenei are getting their capital, which is going to be the first time we're going to see a completely brand new city being built, and this could actually be huge. With the other cities, I mean, we've already known about them. While Undermine is technically a new city, we've known about it since the start of WoW. It was only a matter of just adding it to the game. Gilneas has been a giant loose end since Cataclysm that they just handed over to the Alliance. Quel'Thalas and Silverburn already exist. I mean, it's just awfully outdated, so we're just getting it rebuilt and enlarged. Orgrimmar might be expanded soon with some of the hints we've recently gotten, and as I said, the Undercity is also strongly hinted to be rebuilt soon as well. However, this new Draenei capital is actually something that is going to come out of nowhere, and we actually have no idea what to expect. Before I go crazy on it, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not just speculating here and talking about how they added these 3 cities, which means that Draenei will get one. Now, at the end of the Dragonfight, we got the pretty big Draenei Heritage questline where actual half orcs joined the Alliance technically, and Velen told us that it is time for a new chapter and that the Draenei are soon going to settle permanently with a brand new capital they plan to build. Then they just left it at that, like this is not giant news. Now, in terms of timing, it's almost certainly going to be a Midnight or close to Midnight thing. One of the reasons is that Midnight is all about the Elven revamp. This is all just revamped TBC content. The other side of the TBC coin are obviously the Draenei, so very likely they're going to bunch them up there as well. However, why I think this could be happening sooner rather than later is because the roadmap has strongly indicated that the player housing is happening before the official Midnight release, so this year. The roadmap indicates that Midnight will be announced this summer, very likely late summer. If we can predict anything with Blizzard, it's almost certain that the alpha is already going to start maybe a month or 2 after the announcement. The reason for that is because we know for a fact that 11.3 isn't happening, so after the Midnight announcement, we will only get 11.2.5 and 11.2.7, which are going to bridge the new expansion. These are almost certainly going to be patches with the heritage type quest lines where they're going to wrap up the loose ends. It's unlikely that they're going to do a Draenei revamp at the start of 12.0 because that is all going to be about the Void Invasion. So we're likely going to get a similar follow-up like the one we got in Dragonfight. The real question though is, what will this Draenei city be called? Where will it be and what will it be like? So realistically, when you think about it, the Draenei have been exiles since their departure of Argus in ancient history. Then they settled across various planets, one of these planets being Draenor, and they essentially always had to leave. They had been on the run due to the Legion that was constantly chasing them, but they had been defeated entirely a few years back. By the way, they only crash landed on the Azeroth Isles accidentally, and they have been living in that crash called Exodar since TBC. Despite Exodar technically being a city, I mean, it's not a city at all, it's literally a ruin of a spaceship turned into a makeshift camp. So realistically, with the player housing and everyone settling, why would the Draenei still be living this nomadic lifestyle? As I said, they already told us in Dragonflight that they're working on building a new city. Now, some people are saying the Blizzard is going to update all of the TBC zones, outside of obviously Outland. As you may know, Azeroth Isle and Quel'Thalas are TBC zones. One of these zones is the focus of Midnight. It would make sense that the Draenei would scrap Exodar and the remnants of that and build a proper city with a structure like Auchindan. However, it's hard to say why the Draenei would do that on the Azeroth Isles and why these isles would even be relevant when Midnight Invasion will be happening on the other side of the planet. As I said, it's literally a random zone they just crash landed into. It's not like these are their sacred lands with any type of significant history, like super random zone. They have been spending more time in the various capitals of the Alliance than these isles, and I feel like there is a big chance that they might be granted a new land where they could expand into by the Alliance, especially with Tyrellian being the leader, and as you may know, Tyrellian and Velen are definitely light bros. Now, it is entirely possible that they could be bunched up into the lands of Quel'Thalas because we know the elves are going to be reuniting, so there might be some faction peace, although it's really weird. I mean, Blizzard did also say we will get new faction conflicts soon. However, as they expand it, it could be one of the areas or maybe something like the Isle of Quel'Danas. However, some people have been speculating that the new Draenei city is literally going to be the new Dalaran, which is actually a really interesting speculation when you think about it, even though it does sound kind of crazy. If you've been following the Kirin Tor storyline for the War Within, you might have noticed that the Kirin Tor is technically falling apart and they don't really plan to build a new neutral hub like Dalaran, but it's super vague at the moment. Now, I have speculated that Dalaran may be rebuilt where it was originally for thousands of years, which is in the northern eastern kingdoms, and this would be perfect as the expansion is going to be based there. However, with the Draenei getting a new city, them also being a strong mage intellectual race, could the new Draenei city turn into a new Dalaran? Could they potentially plant a city where Dalaran was, as this is technically still a massive free plot of land with nothing going on? Or could the new Draenei city become a flying one akin to Dalaran? It would kind of make sense when you think about it. I mean, they could use their spaceship and just expand it and have it sort of as a massive floating city, which would definitely be a pretty unique concept. However, based on the heritage storyline, I do think they will actually settle down, as they talked about building an actual civilization of their own on Azeroth, no longer being nomads, with their own sacred objects and essentially having a full-on Draenei zone in a place on Azeroth. Now, obviously the laziest and the easiest choice for Blizzard would be to just slightly revamp Exodar and the surrounding areas, but as I said, Azeroth Isle is not really specifically linked to Draenei other than just being a random zone. It could be possible that they might settle on some of the former lands of Lordaeron, maybe even Quel'Thalas, in order to be relevant to the current expansion. They already placed the Mira Drasil, the new Night Elven capital, in the vicinity very close to Quel'Danas, so it would make sense. However, I think the new Draenei capital happening soon is just the start of the upcoming world revamp of Azeroth. The real deal will be with Undercity no longer being an Undercity and a sewer, but a proper city for the Undead Lordaeron or the Stromgarde that was already updated, and it is only meant to just be added as playable in the game. Everything is fixed by the lore. Hopefully, Gilneas is also going to get at least partially visually updated, and we know Silvermoon is going to be a giant proper city like Suramar, which might turn Silvermoon into one of the best and most up-to-date capitals currently in the game. The only remaining city that still hasn't been wrapped up is Nobragan and the Gnomish struggle, which seems to be like lasting longer than our war against the Burning Legion. However, I see them wrapping this up in a way as well, potentially how we got the Goblin patch, although I do feel like the Gnome patch is going to be more like the foundation of the new Night Elven capital or the reclamation of Kilneas, so not a part of the main storyline, but like a side patch, so this could be a patch like 11.2.5 if it comes in the war with him. However, from the revamp side of things, exciting news are ahead and a partial revamp is already in progress. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on who the final boss of the war with him is going to be by clicking on the screen, and check out my raid channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.